In a world of blancmange and beige and beam-counted design, how refreshing is it to have something like Kia Stinger? We've talked about Stinger lots before. It is brilliant. Here's some figures for you. $63,990 drive away for this V6 Stinger GT. $67,990 for the special edition carbon model. And where this one has piano black highlights, that one's got carbon fibre highlights. For an extra $4,000, it would want to be pretty special, as if Stinger wasn't already special enough. 4.9 seconds to 100. 4.9 seconds to 100 for a Kia. And the power figures are just extraordinary. The bi-turbo V6 is a 3.3 litre with 24 valves. It has direct injection and puts out 272 kilowatts and 510 newton meters. Fuel consumption is 10 litres per 100 kilometres, but that's as low as 7.5 on the highway. It emits 232 grams per kilometre of CO2 and runs on regular unleaded petrol. Alongside we've got LED headlights, these piano black highlights here, a mirror finish on the side vents, the mirror finish also on the side mirrors, and this, the automatic locking and unlocking of the doors just by using this button. And the best thing is that you can do it with the trunk up. Last month, Stinger sold 131, not a whole lot, and 1,532 for the year to date. It's got an 8-speed auto, launch control, limited slip differential, and has a ground clearance of 130 millimeters. The wheelbase is 2,905 millimeters and the height is just 1,400 millimeters. It's 4,830 millimeters long and weighs 1,780. It can tow 1,500 and has a 75 kilogram downward tow ball weight. Luggage space is 406 litres with the seats up, which expands to 1,114 with the seats down. Steering is rack-mounted electric. There are McPherson struts at the front and a multi-link setup at the rear. This is one of those cars where the story of its specs doesn't really tell you what it's like to drive. Let's get that sorted out. Everything about it feels lovely and relaxed and calm until you put it into sports mode, where it just turns into this maniac. A lot of people like that urgent, ankle-biting, growling engine all the time, but frankly, most of the time, I like just to be calm and cool and collected. And as you can see, driving down these narrow, leafy lanes, Stinger is just that. It is so calm. Now, you'll remember that we drove this car at the launch, and we had it on a racetrack. We had the Stinger GT and its 2-litre stablemate. A lot of us preferred the suspension on the 2-litre version, which was just tweaked by Graham Gambold to ride beautifully. And so it does ride beautifully. And so does this in the various modes, including one that is customizable to just the way you want it. You can change the steering and the suspension and the throttle and the transmission response to just the way you like it. On the track, of course, you'd want to use the launch control for doing those 4.9 seconds to 100. Then you get the steering. The steering, even in normal mode, is sensational. It's light, it's breezy. But when you add any of the sporty settings to it, it makes it a little bit firmer. Personally, I think it's nice and comfort all the time. Air conditioning is dual zone, brilliant, and you can sync them, and you know how much I like that. The cockpit is set up a little bit aircraft style, and there's not something that you can see, but this looks like a normal solid piece of trim, but at night that lights up with this red glow. It's a shame that it only does it there. I'd like to see it all over the cabin. Kia were long seen to be a little bit pedestrian, a little bit safe, but there's nothing safe about the design of Stinger GT. It just looks beautiful, it looks daring, it looks aggressive. The screen, of course, is an infotainment system that includes DAB radio, which is the digital radio, and all of the other things that you'd want with your infotainment system. You've got to be so careful around here. Everything is laid out beautifully, and when you get into it, the seats hug you. And when you put it into sports mode, they hug you even tighter. One of the settings makes the bolsters fold in. So I'm going to put it in sports mode now. And you can't feel it, I know, because this isn't feel-o-vision, but the bolsters have just hugged me even tighter, and it's drawn in my love handles. Actually, I might use that more often. Love handle tightener. Sounds awesome. But Stinger GT is about practicality. So there's the boot that you can easily get at, and seats that fold down 60/40. There's all the things that a normal family would want in their car. And when you're just sitting in Sydney traffic like I am, because that's what I do most of the time, you come to appreciate how beautifully comfortable the cabin is. The leather seats, they're perforated, they're heated and cooled. Not only that, the steering wheel is heated. And once you've put it into sports mode, you've got to remember it's in sports mode, because the takeoff is pretty sprightly. Let's see if I can get around here without... It's that's a trifle bumpy in here in sports mode on Sydney roads, but you're not going to drive with that most of the time, and to be honest with you, you don't need to. Even in comfort mode, the acceleration is pretty brisk. There we go. So I put it in comfort mode, it's gone back into soft suspension, and the seat has unhugged me. You look around the cabin, and honestly, I have a hard time thinking of this as a Kia. There's little drilled covers over the speakers, which looks so classy. And the rest of the cabin also looks classy, though I'm not a fan of this kind of matte, metallized plastic look. Never have been, never will. But, of course, what it does do is stop it shining in your eyes. So the more shiny surfaces you have in a car, the more you're going to get sun in the eyes, especially late in the afternoon like it is now. Now that I'm on this quite bumpy road doing the speed limit, the ride is sensational. Put it into sports mode, it's dropped down a gear, the seats hug me, and now the suspension is quite firm. But at the end of the day, there's nothing about Stinger I don't like. I think it's brave of Kia to have released a car into a market that is rapidly shrinking. We did a story on the top 10 cars in Australia last month, and the news is grim. The news is really grim for the Australian retail automotive market. And of the top 10, Kia is the only one to have increased sales. I don't know what that says about a market that's obsessed with SUVs, but I think it says a lot about Kia, that they're safe and reliable and value for money. And that's it for Kia Stinger. This is the GT version. Remember, we did the 2-litre version not so long ago. 4.9 seconds to 100, as I said, and I think this is one of the most attractive executive hatches there is on the market. Let me know what you think in the comments, and as usual, hit just there to subscribe.